For any of this to make sense, I have to ask you, kind of divorce your 21st century American minds, and I want you to step back into the culture of the people of the first century. And for that to make sense, first of all, I need to know a little bit about what you consider important at a party. Now, in my culture, it's food. Okay? And Jim is shaking his head. So I'm going to pose a question to different people, but it's always the same question. I want your answer to be your answer. Okay, it's personal. I go to a party, what's the one food I love that I want to see at that party?
Chocolate.
I didn't even ask. But as Jesus would have said to you, you are not far from the kingdom of God. Okay? Something you love personally that you want to see at a party. Rosalinda, what do you love? All answers acceptable.
Hurry up.
Good cheese platter.
Good cheese platter. Matt, what do you like?
The baby lamb chops with the little socks, so you don't get the piece of I usually give the waiter $20 and I get like 30 of them. They're delicious.
I have to say I like the women.
Never mind, we don't even go there. David, what do you like?
Actually, rice and beans.
Okay. Abby, what do you like? If you go to a party, what do you want to see there for food?
Like different snacks, like candy.
Whatever you like. Your answer. What do you like?
Like popcorn.
Like popcorn. Okay. And Bridget, what do you like?
Pizza.
You like pizza. Okay, Mom, as opposed to Bridget. Chocolate. Okay, one more volunteers. We'll play off the lawyers against each dueling lawyers. Stephen, what do you like? Really? That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so here to all of you that I asked the question, I pose this. Would you trade your favorite food for the stale granola bar that I have in my back pocket?
No.
Okay. But we do this all the time, in a manner of speaking. Let me explain. The last several weeks, there has been, the gospel passages have been one after another, Jesus telling a story about what it's like what it should be like to be a member of his movement. The kingdom of heaven, well, what is it like? And he gives an answer, and every week it's been something different. Today it's a big banquet for a wedding. A little history in the culture of the time. In an era before social media, if you wanted to invite people to a party, and especially if it was a big event, you had to do it in two stages. You had to, first of all, send out your hired help, your servants or whatever, to let people know there's going to be a wedding. My son is getting married. My daughter is being bas mitzvah, whatever the case may be. And you send that word out and you kind of give people a heads up. There's going to be a big party. Be prepared for it. And you send it out to your friends and your family, your relatives, or whomever. And that's the presumption that Jesus gives when he makes this story up. He kind of assumes we're going to understand, like the crowd in front of him would have understood, that when the second batch of invitations go out to say, okay, the party is now, you're supposed to drop what you do and go to the party. Because you've been told there's a party coming. That's the presumption, so that it all makes sense. It's not like these people get caught by surprise. Hey, there's going to be a wedding. My son's, we just don't know when yet. Because you've got to gather enough food, you've got to figure out how many people are going to be coming. It's the logistics of bad traveling. It's all the aspects of the first century that we don't think about because we live in such a different culture. So Jesus makes up a story, and he says, this is what it's like to be a member of my movement. It's going to be like a huge feast. It's going to be like the best party you've ever gone to, with the best food you've ever had. And what he's kind of saying, and I'll use the culture of my own growing up, God does not invite us to a cheap date. Okay? It's not a lousy lunch. It is going to be a fiesta. It is going to be a banquet with the best of shrimp and popcorn and chocolate. And well, one of us is into, I'm a carnivore and I make no apology for that, okay? I love fried chicken, I love steak, sue me. And there's going to, but also pasta primavera, because my grandma would be there and I would never want to insult her. The point of it is that this feast that Jesus speaks about, this social event of the year, being a follower of his and being a part of his kingdom, he's saying, look, anybody who is anyone gets invited. Only the A-list people, that's who the king sends for. There's going to be great music, great dancing, great invitation. The important, acceptable people will be there, and the king has invited you. That's the point. The king wants you. He has sent out the invitations. You are in. And the story is one consecutive excuse after another. I can't come because. Two things to be taken seriously. Number one, following Jesus is supposed to be something joyful. The idea of Christianity being oppressive or monotonous or gloomy or having to give up everything where you lose yourself in the process, that's just not right. That's not true. It's not what Jesus ever intended. It is quite perverse. It is to joy we have been invited. St. Paul writes to the Christians in Philippi, rejoice in the Lord. Again I say rejoice. God's Spirit has been given to you. And I take that very seriously because Paul's letter to the Philippians is the only letter he wrote where he wasn't yelling at people. The whole letter from beginning to end, he's happy. It's like somebody gave him a lot of value. And he's just speaking from the heart, telling them how much he cares for them, and he reminds them that this movement we're a part of is supposed to make us happy, give us peace with ourselves. But the insidious part of the story, and this is where what I share with you, is that listen to the excuses that are given. Oh, I can't go to the wedding because I got to deal with a family issue. I got to deal with work. Whatever it is, there will always be an it is. And none of the things that Jesus mentions in the story are bad. No one says, I can't come because I want to, it's my life's ambition to visit every brothel in Texas. No, then nobody says that. Or I want to rob a bank or anything stupid. Every excuse is legitimate. How often do we choose the stale granola bar over the important good food? Because we are willing to spend so much time with what is of secondary importance because it's in front of us. Are we willing to spend the time to realize we've been invited to something wonderful which we may not see at the moment, but it's just as real? We give our time to what we will only see. We give our time to what's second best. And the message you get from this, it's not so much about punishment as much as what a waste that we didn't take advantage of what we were offered. Unless one of you attack me in coffee hour and you say, yeah, but what about the guy who shows up and gets thrown out because he wasn't wearing the white clothes, all right? And how does that make sense? It does if you know the culture. Now, some of you are used to going to restaurants, and they would never accept me, so I've never been in this kind of restaurant, okay? Where a gentleman is expected to wear a jacket and tie, and if you don't wear the jacket and tie, one is provided for you. Any one of you ever gone to restaurants of that nature? Somebody said, of course. I haven't. All right. Now, to be fair, I wear the collar and I can get in. Yeah. On the other hand, nobody wants to wear the collar. Trust me. It's not that comfortable. Okay? But the point is, again, in that culture, you're invited to a party like that. If you're too poor to afford what is appropriate to wear, a robe would have been provided by the host. That would have been part of the responsibilities of hospitality. So the guy who's there not wearing the appropriate clothes is A, just too lazy to have stopped off and put it on, and B, too disrespectful of his host. That's what that's about. Okay? And how often is that us? Again, so often we just don't have the time because we won't make the time because I choose to do what I want, what I think is more important. So once again, what is it about this morning? It is about the wonderful invitation we've received. Because at the end of the day, whether we like to admit it or not, the ones who get invited at the end, they don't deserve it. It's an act of pure grace. And those people who get invited into this movement, those people who get invited to become part of this, who don't deserve to be there, that's us. If only we'd listen, and if only we'd act on it. Amen.
Amen.